Gents, the Friday night game between the Magpies and the Tigers is an absolute humdinger. It's like an old spaghetti western. They'll be in the streets just firing at each other. Bang, 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 bang. Jason, who are you going with?
I think Collingwood might have a few more bullets to fire, Dicko. The big issue for Richmond, Al, is the number of good players that are out. So we know Nathan Broad's been suspended, but Martin won't be playing, Jacob Hopper's not playing, Jaden Short's not playing. They're losing a lot of talent now. They've got some depth, Richmond, but they're players that I don't think they can quite replace.
And, yeah, they're running into a red-hot Collingwood, as we know. One man who I think, if Richmond is to have a chance, who has to have a massive game is Tom Lynch. And he did last time he played Collingwood. He had 25 disposals, 11 marks and kicked 6. So you'd need to repeat that, you'd think, for Richmond to be a chance here.
He's becoming a consistent goal kicker. So it's at 3 or more goals in his last 7 games. It's a pretty good effort.
And the Tigers, so you talk about defence, like no one can defend Collingwood, but they're third in the competition.
Yeah, I mean, Richmond we talked about inconsistency, the draw round 1, and then last week they just absolutely went to sleep for a quarter. But for the other 3, they looked pretty good. Back to that Richmond style that we know Damien Hardwick loves.
So it is interesting, though. You've got Collingwood averaging 130 points a week, and you've got Richmond conceding 67. So if we split the difference, if you do your math quickly, it comes up at 98.5 points to go.
Oh, yeah,
that might still be enough, I suspect, to win the game. So even if they do, chop them down by 5 goals, I think they can still kick a winning score, Collingwood.
See, that was even a dig at me about maths, because I was a scholar at Assumption. All right, Al, the Demons... Yeah, I was.
You attended, at least, on occasion.
The Demons and the Swans at the MCG. Well, it's shaping up as the acid test for both teams. Tell us why and who you're siding with in this game.
I've tipped Melbourne. It's a pretty hard one to tip. I guess you go with the home side. But Clayton Oliver is one guy who's just super consistent. He actually loves playing against Sydney. You'd think they're a pretty hard matchup, but he's averaged 30 disposals in his past 6 games against them. So I think he'll have another big one this weekend.
They went missing, Melbourne's midfield last week, unexpectedly. I don't know why, because it's such a high-quality midfield. I don't expect them to be missing 2 weeks in a row. So I think they're going to really take it up to Sydney. And Sydney, we don't know how well they're going to go. Why? Who have they beaten?
No one.
Gold Coast and Hawthorn. So they haven't had that test yet. Until they do, and I'm not suggesting they won't pass the test, because any team coached by John Longmire, they're going to be competitive, but I just think Melbourne might bounce back in this one.
It's a nice early draw for the Swans coming off the smashing in the grand final, how they're going to react. So, well done, AFL. You've eased them in beautifully. All right, Jason, we're giving the Dockers another chance, are we? Or are we picking the Eagles over in the West?
I didn't like this game either, I've got to be brutally honest. I did tip West Coast last week and I was happy they got the job done for me, but I'm going for Freo, and I'm not really sure why. The Eagles lack a little bit of consistency, and they had their moments last week. They threatened to let the opposition back into the game at one stage when they looked like they had it parcelled up. Freo have been deplorable, and I just think a team that finished, in the top 6 last year has to bounce back at some stage, and they've copped a heap over in the West this week. I mean, a serious heap. So it's going to be really, really interesting to see what sort of response they come up with.
And one player that's under the pump is, Luke Jackson. They're getting into him in the West.
See, that's harsh. That's harsh.
Well, probably Sean Darcy could help him out. He was absolutely putrid last week, single-handedly destroyed my SuperCoach team. But he's coming up against the West Coast that doesn't have Nick Natanui. He had 55 hitouts last time he played them. So I think there's a bit of acid on him to really put in a big one this week.
What about the way the media's attacking Luke Jackson, though? I don't get it. Don't attack the player. It's not his fault that they pay mega bucks in a big long-term deal. I mean, he's accepting that because it's going to set him up for life. But understand what you're getting. He hasn't been a superstar yet. He was second fiddle behind Max Gawn. He's played 50 games for a young ruckman, and they think he's got to go over there and just start winning games for them off the bat. I mean, be practical, Dicko.
We've got this upside down. That was Dunstall's don't argue.
No, it wasn't. I just think everyone's pointing the finger at him. He's a young kid that's played 50 games, a ruckman that's going to develop, but gee whiz, go easy, fellas.
Go easy. All right, okay, there you have it. Let's have a look at some...
Did you tell us why you're tipping?
Of course I'm going with West Coast.
Why?
New game plan.
Why?
Simo responded and said, listen, I'm going to tinker the game plan.
And what did he do with it?
He won a game of footy. And he's got a health and fit list, so that's how we're going to have it. All right, let's have a look at some of the other games in round 3. We're all picking the Blues and the Cats, but I'm alone. As I said, I'm going with the Swans and the Eagles, Jason, in the upset. Thanks, Jason. Thanks, Al. Pleasure. Outstanding effort from you guys. Thanks for joining us on Fox Sports Lab AFL. Make sure you subscribe below and follow us on socials, and we'll see you next week.
Footy is life. It's loyalty, rivalry, love and pain. Footy is everything. That's why we've made a betting brand for footy fans. That's better. Chances are you're about to lose.